and wagons and horses and dragons, plus dolls of every color, shape, and size. Packed and headed for the far horizon, flying through the starry skies. Who would know I am invisible to all those tiny peering eyes? Here I come down the chimney. If it's slippery, I get to slide. Even those who don't see me here still have proof of this, my first magical Christmas sleigh ride. Oh, all this in one night, albeit.
You know, for all the jokes we make about the more magical aspects of Santa Claus, we still somehow accept flying reindeer, sliding down chimneys, getting around the world in one night with only NORAD able to spot him. Oddly, it seems writers lately have the most trouble with his apparent immortality. But why is that the hardest thing to comprehend? Look how many recent stories feature Santa's kids. I've seen at least 2 movies in that Hero Bear and the Kid comic I reviewed this year, in which Santa is secretly in a long line of people continuing the legend, like some kind of Christmas phantom. The real origin of St. Nicholas is admittedly less magical, but you can see how he became Santa Claus. A Greek bishop from an area that is now part of Turkey, Nicholas was known for gift-giving. His most famous charitable act appears to be sneaking a dowry into the home of 3 sisters, so that her father could marry them off rather than sell them into prostitution. Doing so under the cover of night due to his modesty, the son of rich parents raised by his namesake uncle wanted the credit to go to God, not him. There are other tales, but at least some of them may well be legends that never actually happened. The rest of Santa's backstory comes from many other sources, from poems to traditions of other countries. It would take too long to go into them all here. Instead, I want to focus this year on one attempt by author L.Frank Baum. Yes, the guy who created the Wizard of Oz books. The Life and Adventures of Santa Claus, published in 1902, was his attempt to explore Santa's story. In 1985, Rankin Bass presented an adaptation of the book, but like I said last year, I want to get away from Rankin Bass this year. Besides, when I think of their Santa origin, I think of Santa Claus is coming to town. While they tried to add their typical whimsy, the only thing memorable about the special was the use of Thundercats voice actors. Instead, we're going to look at a 2000 traditional animated version, produced by Universal and Mike Young Productions. You have the same company that made the Masters of the Universe remake, but there's no jumping around with thunderous bounds here. This is a more relaxed production based on Baum's story. So how did the creator of Oz try to explain Santa to children? Well, let's take a trip to the secret forest of Burzee and meet the future icon. We open being told that our story takes place before television, storybooks, and even toys. And every little kid starts looking at their grandparents. We're also told that hiding in Burzee are all the magic creatures who live there, and some are immortal. You have the Rills, the Nooks, the Pixies, and the Wood Nymphs. See if you can tell who's missing. It's here that we meet Necile, voiced by Dixie Carter, who's in charge of gathering the nectar that gives prophecy to our narrator, Ack, the Master Woodsman of the Woods, as opposed to the Master Woodsman of the City, given speech by Hal Holbrook. He's in charge around here. The odd part is that from this scene he appears to be narrating in real time, since it doesn't go into a flashback, but goes right into Ack talking about how he found an abandoned human baby at the edge of the woods. Necile's a little concerned when Ack mentions leaving him in the care of Shigra the lioness. So against the laws of the immortal, she leaves the inner forest and convinces Shigra to let her take the child, and Ack to let her raise the boy, since as an immortal she can't have her own kids. Ack acts like he isn't pleased and talks about breaking their highest law, no interaction between mortal and immortal. But you can tell by the look on his face that he's kind of behind all this. Then company drops by. This is Whisk, a shape-shifting pixie from the other side of the mountain, and voiced by Carlos Alazraqui, and I know I pronounced that wrong. He got launched in a catapult trap thanks to our villains of the story, the Aguas. Necile offers him a place in Burzee. Just building the population, aren't we, Necile? Everyone finally settles on a name for the baby, Nicholas Claus. Claus meaning little one in ancient wood nymph. Don't worry, there's no test later. Nicholas grows fast thanks to Necile's montage song. What, you thought not using Rankin Bass meant no insert songs? Trust me, though, you'll like this one.
His whole life has been opening up like a rose. In the world to come, he'll go unknown, and I know that in the world to come this being will shine like the sun.
Nicholas grows up to be voiced by Robbie Benson, so Ack takes him on a trip to the human world thanks to his magic sash. Yes, this is important later. By the way, if you notice the way they shade the characters while in the forest, you can tell it's done with computers, but if you're caught up enough in the story, it doesn't matter, and they shade differently in the human world. Although we get to my first problem. Ack takes Nicholas to a nearby village and sees kids forced to work in terrible conditions, a crippled boy ignored by others, and a rich girl not allowed to play with the poor kids, despite being the only kids around. It's dark and depressing, and as Ack told the others earlier in the story, is typical of the human way of life. I'm not exactly sure when or where this story takes place, but that's a rather negative view of human life, isn't it? It doesn't help that we see the Aguas causing even more trouble. All this troubles Nicholas, and he ponders what he can do. Years later, Nicholas finds a place to build his home in the valley of Ho-Ha-Ho, subtle, halfway between Burzee and the village. They go to collect fallen trees because trees are too special to cut down. In other words, they stuck in an environmental message. Don't cut down trees, even if you need the wood, or you'll tick off the nooks. Yeah, they seem real scary.
Won't that be a lot of work? If we do it right.
So what if you do it wrong? All the forest creatures help Nicholas build his new house. And frankly, I'd hire them. Oh, and insert song.
And someday when each corner has accumulated things,
We'll have to scurry back to quickly add another wing.
it's more than a location where we stop instead of roam.
Much more than just a building. What we are building here's a home.
We're building up a house and making a home. Kind of a friend who's made of logs and mud and stone.
We're making a place that even we'd be proud to own.
We're building a house. We're making a home.
We're building a house.
We're making a home.
Nicholas and Whisk wake up to a brand new house and a new housemate in the form of Blinky. No, not him.
No, she's a cat.
And so, Nicholas of Burzee visits the human world and for the most part gets a warm reaction. Because of him, a baby stops crying and his older sister finally speaks. Then he shows that the crippled boy Ethan can in fact work and earn a wage. I'm not sure you should be showing that guy, though. Now, I know all this is to show Nicholas has a special connection with children, but at least with the family, this seemed like they were trying too hard. Winter comes and Nicholas isn't able to return to the village, so he bides his time by making a carving of Blinky, inspired by a piece of wood that looked like the cat. One night, Nicholas is awoken by cries for help. It's Ethan, half frozen in the snow, but, much to the Agua's displeasure, saved just in time. Upset that Nicholas didn't come back, the boy traveled here by himself with the leaning stick for Nicholas. In the morning, Ethan meets Blinky and is presented with his own wood cat, who I can assure you isn't quite as warm and cuddly. Still, it gives Nicholas an idea to create these things he dubs toys, with help from the Nooks, Rills, Pixies, and Nymphs. Now can you tell who's missing? You may have noticed there are a few changes here, not just from the book, but from the traditional Santa Claus. For one thing, the man who becomes Santa doesn't live in the North Pole, and Lucile's role is upgraded from her position in the book, replacing another character. There are a few others, but elves were part of Baum's original book, with the other races also in there, but they're hardly missing here despite their role in tradition. I can see if Baum hadn't used them, but since he did, they should have at least been there. Well, Baum's book was published in 1902, and at least some of Santa's legend had been created, but not all of it. I think the North Pole was added later, so no one country could truly claim Santa. But do these changes affect the story?
Here I come down the chimney. If it's slippery, I get to slide. Even those who don't see me here still have proof of this my first magical Christmas.
Now, the Aguas thus far have only been a minor part of the story, causing mischief or just being peeping toms. As we enter the second half, they're about to become a lot more prominent and a lot more dangerous than Whisk's impersonation. Nicholas's toys and his stories of Burzee are a big hit with the kids. That doesn't sit well with the Aguas, who plot Nicholas's downfall. Or would if the general wasn't... Well, I should say the rocks aren't just on his body. It's too bad because Maurice LaMarche gives King Mogor a properly villainous voice, but Jim Cummings' Thog is hardly impressive as a general, including how long it takes him to come up with a plan. I mean, don't get me wrong, Cummings' performance is good, but they didn't exactly write this character with a whole lot of brains. Meanwhile, Shigra pays Nicholas one last visit. I like how the cloud resembles her and you almost don't need Act to tell you she's about to die, but also serves as foreshadowing if you think about it. Later, two kids visit Nicholas and he shows them a carving of Shigra and learns a toy shouldn't be scary. Actually, I know a few people who would disagree with that. But I'm sorry.
You that man what makes cats?
Cats. Yes, and other animals.
Me want a cat! Me too!
Yeah, even for me, the precious voice doesn't work well when other children in the movie talk like normal kids. Kathy Sosi does a better job as Natalie, that rich girl from before now a bit older. She comes to Nicholas wanting a toy, but since she isn't poor, he wonders if he should bother. Nick, it's not like she can get a toy somewhere else because she can't afford it. You are the only toy maker in existence right now. Plus the fact that you already saw that this girl could not make any friends because her dad wouldn't let her play with anyone. But deep down, I think he knows all that, and the seal not only helps bring that to the surface, but becomes the muse for his new toy.
Oh, she can be my friend. How did you know that I needed a friend when I asked only for a toy?
As a toy collector myself, it's not the same thing. But considering what a jerk her dad is, it's probably the best she's going to get. Meanwhile, Thog finally has a plan. Only took you a year, Thog. It takes longer trying to find his pants before remembering he doesn't wear any. Good job. I'd give you a cookie, but you probably don't know what to do with it. Actually, the plan sounds like a good one. Break into Nicholas's house and teleport him somewhere else. I mean, it doesn't work, but only because of Act's decree that Nicholas is under his protection, and the local nooks just zap him back. Much the thought that counts, mostly that Thog had one. And while we wait for a second one, because this is a Christmas story and miracles do happen, Nicholas's operation enlarges, causing him to need a list of who wants what and to build an addition to his house to make a factory. But Nicholas gets older, and his voice changes to Jim Cummings' second role. And let me just say that Cummings is one of, if not the best Santa Claus voice actor I've ever heard, between this and that famous Pebble cereal ad. Anyway, with the snow getting stronger than Nicholas, Whisk accidentally gets the idea to use the reindeer, but with some of the houses employing locks, he's forced to go down the chimney. As rumors of Nicholas being a saint start cropping up, that's when he starts getting called Saint Nicholas, or Santa Claus, which should surprise the Catholic Church. He also gets credit for coming up with lighting Christmas trees, when that was Martin Luther, the guy Reverend King was named after. This is my other problem with the story. Nicholas invents toys. Nicholas invents Christmas decorations. It's like Christmas is celebrating Nicholas and not Jesus. I don't mind when they come up with reasons for Santa Claus's MO, although I don't know if the real St. Nicholas jumped down chimneys. But he's also responsible for everything else. Maybe I'm being a bit too hard, but too much is credited to Santa. When he's not back soon enough with mistletoe and holly, and not the names Baum uses, the Nook in charge of reindeer cuts him off. So Nicholas is forced to travel on foot, just as Thog has his second idea. Possibly ever. Every time he tries to deliver his toys, the Aguas stop him and steal the toys. Although I'm not sure why they hide them in their cave instead of, burning them. They're wood. They burn pretty easy. They even go after the now adult Natalie when she tries to visit Nicholas, hoping that her Nacille can bring happiness to one of the children being denied by the Aguas. That pushes Santa's last button. Nicholas goes to Ack in hope of getting the reindeer to get them past the Aguas, and a new deal is struck. Nicholas can use 8 reindeer once a year, 10 in the book. That's not traditional, and Rudolph comes later. Ack chooses Christmas because it's a time of family gathering and peace. No mention of a certain baby. A passing mention would have satisfied me, really. That's not enough, though. Ack also agrees that the Aguas have crossed the line, and the magic folk of Berzee prepare to go to war against the Aguas. Nicholas is to be left in the dark about it because they have powers even he didn't know about growing up. The Aguas have allies of their own. 2 giants and 1 dragon. I hope there were more in the book, but maybe that's all the friends Thog has. The battle doesn't last long, and it's a rather casualty-free fight. Well, except for those 2, and I suppose a dragon being turned into a bird might be considered dead. Not sure what happened to those guys. Mogurb and Thog are turned into bugs, and, well, that's the end of them, leaving Nicholas free to deliver toys. That's right, magical creatures just went to war over toys. Why not? Toys are awesome. But how is Santa going to get them to the children?
I wish your deer could fly.
They can.
What? Why did you not ever tell me?
You never asked.
And the fairies find the toys just in time for Nicholas's delivery time. And so, with the magic sash and flying reindeer, we get another insert song, and probably my favorite, thanks to coming showings of both Santa's excitement and exhaustion.
All this in one night, albeit a fun night, is just about the wildest ride I know. Wondering how I'll get it done by morning. All those houses yet to go. Some will hang their little stockings out to dry them from the rain and snow. Here I come down the chimney. If it's slippery, I get to slide. Even those who don't see me here still have proof of this my first magical Christmas handing out a world of presents sleigh ride. Oh my.
However, no man can live forever. And even Nicholas gets old. With the angel of death approaching, Act calls a council of immortal statues requesting immortality be bequeathed upon Santa Claus. Okay, I'm torn in this scene. On the one hand, it shows Nicholas's positive influence on children everywhere since he first arrived in Ho-Ha-Ho Valley. On the other hand, Act lays it on a bit thick, saying that without Santa, humans will go back to being pathetic, lonesome, and just generally unpleasant. Look, I am not going to deny the importance of Santa Claus or all the goodwill Nicholas has done in this story, but he did invent goodwill and happiness, and even if they want to make him the creator of toys and lit Christmas trees, yes, he makes a good role model to children and brings happiness to their lives, and his work should earn him immortality because we do need people like him in the world. But Act needs to stop saying how awful humans are. Some of my best friends are human beings. Well, it worked at least. Act brings the mantle of immortality for both Nicholas and Blinky. And so Santa continues his midnight ride, bringing toys to children all over the world and maybe something more. Love, hope, creativity, compassion, fun, and a little Christmas spirit. And are there really any better gifts? So that's the life and adventures of Santa Claus. And while I do have a few misgivings, I really liked it. From a Christian perspective and a story fan / critic, too much is made of Nicholas and too little of the rest of humanity. As concerned, the goodness will die with him is the biggie, but he also invents the very idea of toys and most of the Christmas tradition. He at least skirts the Gary Stew line. Granted, a lot of that is Baum's fault, like completely taking the elves out of the story and replacing the North Pole with a valley, depending on how much of that was in the legend when the book was written. But considering the movie takes its share of liberties, like name changes and certain character roles, while being more faithful than the Rankin Bass version, it could have adjusted things to simply say Santa carried those traditions or something. Otherwise, the animation is good when the shading doesn't try too hard, and even then it does add some depth to the characters. The voice acting is great, especially Benson and Cummings as Nicholas, and it is a well-written story with characters that you enjoy. That said, I can see the Christian parents being a bit more uncomfortable with the fantasy aspects, but your perspective may vary. The lack of the Christ child in the story, especially since St. Nicholas was a bishop and an actual Catholic saint, is a bit more off-putting. Again, just a throwaway mention by Ack when he was selecting Christmas would have been enough to satisfy. Otherwise, it's a good story for kids. I recommend this one over the Rankin Bass version, but either is entertaining. You can find the original story at the Project Gutenberg website for free, or you can always find the book and the movie online or at the store. I don't think Cartoon Network still airs this, but I think the Rankin Bass version may air on ABC Family, since they air most of the other specials. This may not be my favorite version of Santa's origin, but it's still a good one. As to what is my favorite, well, I'll save that for another time. Next year, though, I want to tackle another angle of Mr. Kringle. Till then, have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Just be sure to put the chimney out tonight. You never know who's coming to visit.
Magical Christmas handing out a world of presents, get it all done by morning sleigh ride. sleigh ride